Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Stephen the Warman Writes Kickfighting Podcast Show. I'm your host, Stephen the Warman. You are listening to this in various ways. The two most popular ways are to go to my blog, which is lordgaul.podbean.com. I've been posting on there for, I just saw the account the other day, since before 2010. Makes me feel old, but love kickboxing. So, anyways, lordgaul.podbean.com, or go to the most efficient way of getting the podcast. Enter Warman Kickfighting Show into the iTunes search engine, and the show pops right up. So, huge show to talk about today. Of all the things, I really love the K1 Max show. The One Championship show was awesome. And then, of course, we've got the big time news of two retirements of all time greats. Guys who would be in your top 10, top 15 of all time. In Giorgio Petrosyan's case, if he's not in your top, five, your list is probably wrong for kickboxing. But man, I really want to revisit how great some of these guys are and kind of how I got introduced to them and just kind of go down that road. I'm definitely going to be ranting and going through it today with my kickboxing coverage. So we're going to go ahead and start with Rico Verhoeven. Now, clearly, there's going to be an argument for Giorgio Petrosyan in terms of his skill set. And you're like, man, why would you not open with Giorgio? Most people feel like Giorgio's the best of all time. A lot of people feel like he is, if you had one fighter to pick to win one, to win a fight at any era, you'd pick Giorgio Petrosyan. But I'm going to make the argument that Rico Verhoeven, in terms of what was done for kickboxing over his career, I actually think Rico did more. I think he did more in terms of bringing the sport to great heights and then returning it to great prominence in Holland. First things first, I'm going to go ahead and start off with some stories that you heard before, but this is one that I don't know if I've told before. The first time I've ever seen a Rico Verhoeven fight was against Redon Abdeloy. I believe I'm spelling right. Abdeloy. And it was on the undercard of a K1 Max event in the Netherlands, in Utrecht. So a good friend of mine who I'm always going to shout out when I get a chance, his name's Tom van der Schilt. Tom and I had became friends over fight forums. So then I met him through Kakatugi. We'd been messaging back and forth. I went out there and he, introduced me to Robbie Timbers, who, was running a STB, which was a fight apparel brand that had clothing and bags and so on. And of course, you saw a lot of STB on shorts and stuff back then. And then that moved into, of course, Robbie is now the matchmaker for Glory Kickboxing. But I met him. I went out there to this show, and this show was stacked. It was, if I remember correctly, Tyrone Spong's first time fighting for K1 against Azem Amachisev. If I'm remembering correctly, I remember it was Azem. It was a good card, top to bottom. It's a fun card. A lot of fights that night. But I remember that was my first time seeing Rico. And the first thing, of course, that stands out is his size. He's a huge guy. He's got muscle. I had no idea what his future was going to be this time. I just thought that he was one of the first or second fights on the card. So that was my first time getting introduced to him. So in the coming years, he got some solid victories. Peter Musternovic. He also got Philip Verlinden, and then he ran into some losses. Again, veteran guys. Ishmael Lant at the time was on the come up. So he was a guy who was putting on good performances. He had a great walkout. And then Bryce Gideon, who's been, one of France's solid kickboxers. I believe that was in Japan that happened. And then we had Restemi Krashenik, and I remember that was on its Showtime card. So I'm going down the list and I'm remembering these fights. Okay, I'm remembering this. This is kind of how I got introduced to him. Then he put together a little bit of a streak. Michael Dute was one of the wins on that streak. Frank Munoz from Spain, who had relocated to Holland, was one of those wins. And then comes the most important moment as far as, and I've talked about this story on this show several times, my most important moment as far as understanding and getting to know who Rico Verhoeven was. Now remember, should be noted, he had fought on the K1 Hawaii card before. He had been on undercards and stuff. So there was a relationship with K1 there. Now, again, the years that we're going into, especially when I get the story, it says K1's kind of heading into its kind of down period. So I go to Holland to start filming my kickboxing documentary. And they have a card March 6th. And it's Showtime. And that was 2011. And then I'm get there late, so I missed most of the fighters for the documentary. Though they did give me access to, walk around backstage, get footage of stuff. They really, really hooked it up. Simon Roots, shout out Simon Roots, who's now not even in kickboxing anymore. I heard he's got successful business as far as bars goes. But anyways, I sit down with him and we talk about kickboxing for a long time. He and I are interviewing him, and or he and I are doing the interview, and I'm talking to him, and he says, I truly believe that Rico Verhoeven is going to be one of the great kickboxers of all time. I remember him saying that in an interview, like really putting Rico over big. The next day, Rico Verhoeven loses by stoppage to Jamal Ben Sadiq. So it was like one of those weird things where I was like, well, I'm not saying it can't still happen. I'm just saying, man, it's kind of a setback to have that interview and then to have this happen. So then move forward, gets a couple wins. Hezzy Heges is a good win. And then he loses to Errol Zimmerman by KO. And then he gets a Ben Edwards win. And then he loses to Sergey Lashenko. And then has the Herges again, Sergey Karatanov, and then he loses to Shimmy Schultz. The Shimmy Schultz one is very important because he's going to bring this up. After the Shimmy Schultz victory or loss, it all comes together. It just all comes together. So he gets Jonathan Denis' victory, and then he gets the rematch victory over Errol Zimmerman. And then comes the tournament in Chicago. The tournament in Chicago, which I got to be there live for. I was really grateful for that. Again, filming documentary stuff. And that was the day that I really, really thought that what they talked about was happening. So he gets the Gokhan Saki victory. It should be noted there was a down call in the first round on Gokhan Saki that I did not feel was a down call that affected how he fought. But I still, how Saki fought, but I still feel that Rico Verhoeven was doing well in the fight. It changes how the fight was, performed. I thought Rico was doing well, and then Rico gets the victory over Daniel Guida. Now at this time, Daniel Guida, Gokhan Saki both have the K1 rub. This is extremely important. The K1 heavyweight era had come to us, a stop for that gap, and we didn't have a tournament like we did before. The thing that got me into kickboxing was the year that Remy Bonjowski won it all. So like the year that he put together, and I got some backstory and I got videos and stuff later, because back then it was about Fight Form. It was about things that you can mega upload, send space. That's how we got fights back then. That's how we sent fights. In fact, we looked down on you if you put it on YouTube, because YouTube was new. We wanted you to put something that we could put on our own computers. So it started with Kaza, which was for BitTorrents, and then it turned into Mega Upload and SendSpace. So at this time, that's one of my main ways for getting a hold of fights. So because of that, we had this era where we were able to get a hold of, Gokhan Saki early fights, Daniel Guida early fights. So you could see it kind of all building up. So it comes from that. I come from that era. Flash forward to Chicago. I'm there and I'm filming the documentary, and I see these guys perform. It's like one of the cooler nights. I remember Tyrone Spong had a KO victory over, I guess, I don't know if you can technically call them nemesis, but man, Tyrone Spong that particular night, like, and what, if for those that know the backstory and the weird, Sky. As I mentioned before, I knew I'd be ranting, got me on a tangent. But anyways, Tyrone Spong had a big time victory that night over what some people would call his rival in the Australian super fighter in terms of everyone, please forgive me. There's a gap in the coverage. I had like a sneeze coming on as I was getting ready to say Nathan Corbett, and I stopped for a second and I was like, okay, let me gather myself. Things are kind of, so please forgive. I hope I edited it out. I'm not sure I got it on both, the GarageBand, which is recording, and then also my video that's recording. I apologize if it didn't get edited out, but sorry, I was building up here and I didn't want to have an embarrassing sneeze. Instead, I had an embarrassing gap in footage. But anyways, on this night, Nathan Carnage Corbett loses Tyrone Spong. It's like a fun night. People who didn't know kickboxing that much in Chicago, who probably came from some of the local undercards, got to see a really good high-level fight card. And Daniel Guida wins. He gets these two big victories and new era. Now there's YouTube videos. This was on Spike TV, if I remember correctly. So the era had changed, and from that changed era, from that sense based mega upload video, HC that got to deal with K1 heavyweights later. Then we don't have a K1 heavyweight World Grand Prix anymore. So now all eyes are focused on Glory and what they can do. Enter Rico Verhoeven, who has the rub. So not only did he fight in some of the like the Hawaii card and some of the Dutch undercards, he now gets the opportunity to fight international against guys who have the reputation or the resume of fighting in the K1 heavyweights when it was the K1 heavyweight still, when it was still that era. So it's a very important that makes who Rico is. So Rico gets this victory. After that, he goes on. He fights Peter Arts in Japan, fights Daniel Gita. He has his lone gap. There was a period of time where he wasn't getting fights, and he fought against Andre Grismachuk in Kunlun in China. In this fight, he was down twice. He got up and kickboxed well, but if you take 2 knockdowns, doesn't matter what you do in the scorecards. It's tough to do. And then a streak like no other kind of goes after that. Gets Errol Zimmerman again, beats Benjamin Adegbuyi twice, stopping him the second time in one of the cooler K1s. Beats Badr Hari when he returns. He had gone down, but he'd gotten up and gotten right back into that fight. Anderson Silva, the kickboxer heavyweight. Jamal Ben Sadiq in the rematch. Just both fights fantastic, but the way he finished, the fact that he finished with the statement, with the KO, very important. Badr Hari again, Jamal Ben Sadiq again, Hezi Heges again, just, and then of course the Lever Rickers victories, and then Artem Vakadov being his last win earlier this year in June. So I bring this up because this, we're talking about from 2013. Grismachek is his only loss. That is phenomenal. And in this time, also very important, when I was in Holland, I would talk to people. And it's one of the things I did about the documentary. And they talked about how Holland had, they perceived kickboxing with a bad reputation. A lot of guys who are attracted to the drug world, the crime world, were around kickboxing and kickboxers. So it did have that reputation. And I remember even a friend of mine when I was out there, he was explaining, he says, I'll be honest with you, there is something there. There is something. He says they go to the soccer games too, but there is something about some of the, not the nicest people in the world career path wise that are around kickboxers. She said there is some truth to it. And then I remember Lucien Corbin talking about how the mayor hated kickboxing at the time, and that was like kind of the thing that he ran on. And he mentioned a fight because I remember a fight broke out and there was like tears thrown, and the video kind of went viral, which was viral for us back then. So then everybody got a hold of this, quick this little clip of them, fighting. And all of a sudden, all of politicians were looking down on kickboxing. And Lucy Caribbean, as I mentioned before, he goes, kickbox, or like some of the gangs knew if you wanted to get more press or if you wanted to get more attention, you would wait to a kickboxing event and then you would go there, you'd meet up there for the fight, even though it had nothing to do with fighting or kickboxing. And unfortunately, kickboxing was a victim of it. So Flash forward to why I say Rico is more important in this day and age. Glory Kickboxing starts to pick up some steam. They're doing some international things. And Rico is growing his brand, not just as a fighter. He's starting to do acting things. So everything's kind of building. And then all of a sudden, they want to do another big show in Holland. Now, there'd been a gap. Again, they're doing shows all over. But in terms of a big elite heavyweight, just full Glory Kickboxing card, I really credit him, and I really credit Nikki Holtzkin for being able to be the individuals to bring that back. So once that happened, now they do shows on a regular basis. You almost never hear about crime connected to kickboxing, and I'm sure that some of those individuals go to it, but the rub is gone. People looked at Rico as a star, international star. He has the look, you know what I'm saying? He's big, good looking, got the muscles, got the physical appearance of, you say, hey, who's the best in our sport? If you look at him, you feel really, really good that this is probably the guy that represents it the best. So I look at him and what he's accomplished, and seeing him ride off into the sunset, I really respect it a lot, because what else could he have done? Basically, the thing that we were asking of him to do in kickboxing was to hang around until someone beat him. And again, Rickers got close, got a couple of knockdowns. But I can't stress to you enough. I think that the wisest decision was made. I feel like it was a big ask for us to say, "Can you hang out until someone can beat you, so then they can be the new star?" Like that's kind of how it felt. They had plenty of opportunities. Rickers had a couple of opportunities. Sometimes guys would win a small tournament, he'd fight them. Sometimes guys would get a big victory, he'd fight them. And again, there's some out there that we would have liked to see. The Raw Menard, of course, didn't happen. And we had a couple guys from one championship make work their way over. I still don't feel it's Rico's responsibility. I don't think it's his responsibility to stay around and keep fighting elite guys until one of them beat him, because he's proven over and over and over he is the guy. He is the best heavyweight of his era. Now, as far as the GOAT conversation, that's always going to be tough. If you're new and you don't know 90s era kickboxing, it is probably a little bit easier for you to see, because, or do you know, for you to say, because you've only known this level of high level kickboxing. It's all you know. You've only known Rico Verhoeven showing up every single, event and winning. And it should be noted, he won a one night tournament when he didn't have to. He was already a reigning champion. He wanted to win the tournament to prove that he could win the tournaments. This is a truly, truly great fighter. A truly great fighter. So, flash forward to him making this decision. I knew even when I was working as the matchmaker in Glory Kickboxing, when I was in talent ops, I had known even then that he really liked acting and that that was something that he wanted to focus on and go into. And I'd also known that he had flirted with MMA. So if he decided to go down that path just to make the UFC walk a few times, whether champion or not, I could understand that too. But I truly believe that he did the best that he could with his kickboxing career and he moved the sport forward. He will run into old timers like me that will be like, okay, the one thing that he did not have was the era of elite as far as top to bottom goes. He didn't have, you know, Peter Arts in his prime running around, Ernesto Houston in his prime running around, Eddie Hoog. He didn't have the Mike Bernardos. He didn't have the Jerome LeBanners. He didn't have them in his era. Like these guys that are fighting now are solid, skilled kickboxers. They're not those guys though, because they were a different type of look every single night. Bernardo was just a straight banger, so you could have the perfect kickboxing performance and you get touched and that's it. Jerome LeBanner. These guys were elite hitters and they proved it because that was the era of champions versus champions. So when they're bringing in all these world champions over Thailand, these guys are on a regular basis are fighting the best guys in the world, guys who have world championship claims, I should say, and he's stopping them. They're stopping these guys. They're going out there and winning by KO. And then if you look at the K1, Max or the K1 World Grand Prix, if you look at the tournament, you're seeing all the same names. But if you look at the fights overall over the 90s, you see a bunch of names. Just those guys just got slaughtered by this group. So for him to not be in that era does hurt him a little bit. Not a lot, but it hurts him a little bit. Jimmy Schultz was the best fighter before his era. Um, he does have the Shimmy Schultz lost. Hurts him a little bit. Not a lot. Hurts him a little bit. Shimmy's great. All-time great. And one of the things that I'm really grateful for him is after he won in Chicago, I did an interview with him. And somehow, someway, to this day, I still don't know how it happened. Everyone had left the room, and it was just me and him, and he answered every single question. And I remember him talking about the Shimmy Silt lost, as I mentioned before. And he said, talk to my coach. He says, you know what we're going to do? He says, we're going to keep working. He says, man, I work with Tyson Fury. I work with his pad holders. I work with, different people. And he's like, man, we talked about it. And he says, I want you get to the top. He says, once you get there, you're going to stay there. I will never forget that from the documentary. I will never forget him saying that. And here we are, 2025. He has made his claim as an all-time great. Yes, he missed out on some of the great fighters before him or get to fight them when they were in their prime, but he did go get Gokhan Saki. He did get Daniel Gita, and they were like still a little over, probably not in their prime as much, but they're still over from that era. So I do count those as victories, and I do see him as a top, for me, top 5 heavyweight of all time. Just my personal opinion. Like this, everybody's got their picks, but I think that he's done enough in his career to make that argument. I know there's going to be someone that's going to bang and argue and so on, but I truly believe that Rico Verhoeven, at minimum, has accomplished being in the top five heavyweights in kickboxing of all time. And in terms of importance to kickboxing, he's like one of the top, one, two, three guys. Like, I really believe that he was good and a star in kickboxing when we needed it. So God bless. Good luck in your future. You are an amazing fighter. Had an amazing career, and just even skill set stuff in terms of how you're able to use your job, how you're able to use your boxing, how you're able to work the low kick. You knee the leg, you heel the leg, you'll shoot a regular low kick, you hit the inside rear back leg. And I remember someone talking about how Yokoyuza does it, and then a guy in the UFC did it. And I was like, no, 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 no. Not saying those guys don't do it. I'm saying Rico's been doing it. So one of the skill wise, one of the best guys at heavyweight you're ever going to see. Gas tank never an issue. Um, Physique always on form. Fight always on form. Even when he was, he's vulnerable. He's been hurt before. Gets back up, right back in the fight. Rico Verhoeven, all time great. Gonna go ahead and move on to Giorgio Petrosyan. Now, Giorgio Petrosyan has got one of the great claims in the history of kickboxing in terms of so many people feel like this guy is the guy. If you're going to choose a winner of, uh, if you're going to choose who's the best kickboxer of all time, skill wise, because of the way he fought and because of the way that he won, skill set, southpaw, pull counter, timing, offset steps, able to find his left leg, able to find his boxing clear, a technician, like one of the great great fighters that's ever lived. That's him. That's Giorgio Petrosyan. And as we go ahead and go into his future, I'm gonna go ahead and go. I'm looking at his Wikipedia now, make sure I don't miss anything. The first time I got introduced to Rico Verhoeven, or excuse me, to Giorgio Petrosyan, and it was actually an accident. I been going to Super League. I was a big Super League fan, and Super League was a kickboxing, Muay Thai-ish organization that was going around. I forget where it was based out of, but they did a lot of shows in Italy. Did a lot of shows in random major cities in Europe. If I'm just trying to remember specifically where certain events were, but there were guys who came, fighters who were very good who started there and moved to other things. At one period of time, John Wayne Park fought in it. Fedi Mirza fought in it. It's just it was a great league, and I was excited. And I remember they had a website, and I looked at it, and Yuri Mess, another guy had been over there, and I wanted to know what was coming from this league. I wanted to see more of it. I was excited for it, so I started to look at its fighters, and that was on the website, and I see Giorgio Petrosyan's name, and I'm like, oh, I don't know who this guy is. I'm looking forward to seeing him compete. And I was actually, I thought I'd seen him fight it. And then I remember Vinny Shorman saying, he says, no, his name was in the database, but he never actually fought for them. So I'd confused certain events. So, anyways, I go, I'm going to start following this guy. So I'm looking at him. He gets a couple fights against some guys that I know. And then he had, someone had posted his loss. He had a loss in Pliny Stadium against Nantanen. And then Paul Pramuk, of all things. So he had a loss there. And then he had a couple wins, and then enters the most popular, most controversial fight of the 70 kg division, the fight with Bukau that took place in Stockholm, Sweden. So this was a split draw, and I remember when it came out, people who were fans of Petrosyan were beating the drum. They were very much like, yo, I think Giorgio Petrosyan won this fight. And then I interviewed Giorgio Petrosyan, his coach, and his coach spoke a little bit of English, and he said, some people had draw. He says, no draw for me. No draw for me. I remember I said it. And I remember when I watched it myself, I thought that Bukau took the fifth round. I thought all the other rounds were close. I had no problem with Bukau winning. I had no problem with it being a draw. I thought that it was close enough. Neither guy really separated themselves on the card. I will say that. That's just how I felt. But some people the fact that Bukau was mowing over everybody, when that happened, there was a strong lean towards this was the guy, like that this went the wrong way. So I understand it. Of course, you're going off of what you see. So I'm no part of me is upset about that, but that's where it came from. This decision, this fight, I mean, now the full fight's up on YouTube, but back then they had like a crowd, like somebody from the crowd had recorded it and posted the fight. Man, I love that fight forum era so much. But yeah, literally somebody recorded it from the crowd and then put it in the fight forum. So that's how I got a hold of it. I'm fine with either winner, even to this day. But some people are strongly in favor of Yo Petrosyan should have won this, and some people were like, "Yo, Bocao should have won this." Either way, that draw set up what would happen for these coming years. It should be noted this time, Bocao had already won multiple K1 World Grand Prix, and he more than any other kickboxer, which is why for me, kickboxing, I think Bocao's number one. He had done so much to grow the K1 Max brand by having success outside of K1 Max. Whereas if you look at Masato was dope, but he was a superstar in Japan, and he stayed in Japan. He had no reason to leave Japan. I think he went to Holland, trained once. I think he took a fight in Thailand, but most of his resume was being the best guy, the most popular guy, the most of his reputation, I should say, was killing it in Japan. But he didn't grow the strength of the K1 Max title like Bocao did, who went out and fought other people. So when Petrosyan got this opportunity, it really lifted a lot of eyes, where people really pay attention to it. So then, of course, he gets some fights. He has, oh gosh, some, Luis Reese, who was a veteran who fought in Showtime several times. Marco Piquet is another good victory there. Kristen Gembe, who's one of my favorites. I really like him a lot. He's a good dude. Norpol Fairtex, big time win there because this was after the Contender Asia. So Norpol had a name, and of course he played that laid back style. I can for sure see Petrosyan outscoring him though. So if you played that, find your moment, play second, body kick, a little bit smoother with your offense, that's going to be tough against Petrosyan, who has the ability to put numbers up if he needs to. So he gets the victory there. Warren Stievelman's another solid victory. And then, of course, Andy Sauer, they met at It's Showtime. That's a victory. Then comes the K1 Max. Now, it should be said, this is kind of an asterisk against him. When he got to the K1 Max, most of these guys were older. So Sauer had already won 2 K1 World Grand Prix titles. Albert Kraus had won his, the first one ever. We're now about, 6 years from that. So those small guys had been beating each other up with high level, volume for a long time by the time he gets this opportunity. Should be noted. Not saying that it's the reason why he won or lost. I'm just saying that it changes things. So he gets Jabra Askarov in round 1, scores a knee, KO, one of the smoothest knees you're going to land. Then after that, he fights in the Showtime against Fadir Shibari, cool cat, really did a lot of good stuff in Holland in terms of working with youth and working with sick. Just everybody thinks Fadir is a great guy. So he gets the victory there. Then he beats Albert Kraus. Then comes the 4-man tournament. So when he won it, it wasn't an 8-man tournament. It was 4-man at that time. Thanks to Masato. Masato, due to injuries and things before, it could have been TV. They could have stretched it out. Hey, we need to get Masato on TV more. But they changed the 8-man tournament to a 4-man tournament. So in this 4-man tournament, Yu Yamato, he gets a big-time KO there. And he gets Andy Sauer, who... the joke was Petrosyan said that Sauer and Bocao were gonna beat each other up, and by the time they got to him, it'd be a little bit easier fight. And then I remember Sauer getting upset about it, saying, "Well, Yu Yamamoto's gonna give him a tough fight, and we'll see what happens." He stops Yu Yamamoto, and Sauer and Bocao fought to an extra round, and sure enough, he's right. Sauer was able to go on, and then the decision went, Petrosyan wins his first K1 World Grand Prix by decision, what was that? 2009. So then after that, still some good fights. Kim Sit Pyongyang, it's a good victory. Vitaly Gorkov. This is the next year, 2010. Then Albert Kraus. Mike Zambides fought him extremely well. Underrated performance, but he's able to beat Kraus He is able to beat. They move it back. Excuse me. On this particular time, they move it back to a three-man tournament in one night. Forgot to note that. So he gets past Albert Kraus, gets past Mike Zambides, who I thought fought him pretty well, and then he fights Yoshihiro Sato in the final. And he gets his second K1 World Grand Prix and back-to-back finish. So this is important because in his history, that's one of the things that stands out. The K1 Max title has a lot of value at this time, and he wins this tournament. So move forward. I was there when he fought Jahi El Hajj, and there was the low blow. I mean, I remember being there. It was like it was an accident, but I just remember the feel of it. Some people thought he was dirty because of it. It just happens. It's the sport. So, but Shahid had to go to the hospital. So the Dutch really jumped on him there. It was in France. It was in Lyon. I was there for that, and I remember the feel that the crowd had. Anyways, Hanada, good victory, and Hanada came over. Our him and Hanada met in Japan on what was it, Rebels, a Showtime Japan event, and then Ziban Deniz, and then Abraham Roquini. Abraham O'Creaney was talented, but he got some decisions that I felt that he shouldn't have gotten. So when Petrosyan won this, I was like, dope, I'm glad Petrosyan won. But Petrosyan gets that victory. Artur Kashenko, Fabio Pinca, very important. Fabio Pinca, probably one of the best. I think he's number one as far as four ranks go for his era. Like because of the Liam Harrison victory, and the run on Thai Fight back when Thai Fight was Thai Fight. Fabio Pingo is dope. He gets a victory there. That goes a long way for me. And that's in the Glory One, if I remember correctly. Then Kai Heilenbach, the American, gets the victory there. David Kiria gets a victory there. Robin van Roosmalen. So we're talking about guys who Robin van Roosmalen, of course, was Glory champion. David Kiria was Glory champion. So he has now gotten and captured the Glory 70 kg title after capturing the Max kg title. Very important for his resume. We move forward. Has the Andy Risty lost? Shout out to Andy Risty. Was able to bounce back, get some victories. Josh Johnson was one of those victories. Jordan Watson, one of those victories. And then, after in its Showtime run, has the Bellator kickboxing thing for a short period of time, where he fights a young Chingiz Alazov. Now, Chingiz Alazov, of course, will go on to be K1 Max champion, which means he's got a K1 Max championship victory over Chingiz Alazov, so he's beaten him, who was champion. He's beaten Albert Kraus, who was champion. He's beaten Andy Sauer, who's champion. He has a draw with Macau. So the only person that he didn't get was Masato, who was injured before they could fight. So I look back on that era, and I look back then, I go, man, this guy got a piece of all of them. It should be noted, Chingiz Alazov, as many times as I've seen him fight, there's only been 2 times where I've looked at him and said, man, this guy didn't perform well. And a great career with a great skilled fighter. Just 2 times. This was one of those nights. Shout out to Petrosyan. Petrosyan's him. So he's always tough. He scored a knockdown in the second. But Alazov looked a little off that night. It's the only time I've ever really felt it. Anyways, move forward. He had the weird thing in one championship with Pesh Morkat where he won, or Morkat won, and then he kind of protested, and then they changed the decision, and then they had a rematch, and he won the rematch. Now, it should be noted, I did think he won the first fight, but I didn't like the idea of, I've been on the wrong end of decisions I didn't like. I didn't like the idea of them changing it like that. I will say that. It almost felt like he, complained his way into it happening. That's how it felt from like an audience perspective, but he made it clear in the rematch. So then, of course, he gets Giorgio Nadawat, the Sami Sana fight. Devacuria, he meets him at one championship. And then, as I mentioned, he is the one championship title holder, which means history will show one championship belt, K1 Max belt. They gave him a belt for the Bellator thing, but, it wasn't really organization. But K1, one championship, and Glory. So the 3 major kickboxing organizations of his lifetime, they all provided him with titles. He was able to win a title on all 3 of those. This goes a long way towards his resume. Then, unfortunate, and it's the sport, in a great back and forth, good skill showed by both. Superbond just up a little bit, an exchange of kicks, high kick lands, Superbond wins by KO. Petrosyan goes down, and he struggled. He struggled dealing with it for a while. Should be noted. He did not fight in one championship afterwards. He I don't know if it was financial or if it was just. I remember there was post about it, and like word had got out that he was like upset with the kickboxing world for how they responded after he won by head kick. But I mean, he'd been the alpha for so long, so for him to finally run into someone as great in a skill to Superbon and get a loss, it's no shame there. But we're only used to him winning, so it's like it was the first time ever people were like, "Oh wow, Superbon's right there," or someone's up there with Petrosyan finally after all these years. It happens. Anyways, he comes back a year later, gets a couple fights under Petrosyan Mania. I don't know if this is a group of people who got together to put the card together for him or put the event together for him or sponsors or if it's just him running it. I'm not sure. But he ends his career with five straight wins, and then he beats Jose Sosa the other day for his final fight. Took the gloves off, went down to his knees, thanked the crowd. George Petrosyan had an all-time great career, and you are going to be hard pressed talking to anybody that says that he is outside. And like I said before, if he's outside of your top five, your list sucks. It's just not. He has made a great career. He has made a great argument for himself being one of the all-time greats. He's special, special talent, special fighter. I have no idea where things end for him. I just know that this guy is not like anybody else kickboxing has ever seen. He is the standard for southpaw kickboxing. He has just the vision, like his vision, his reflexes, his response, like when he sees the opportunity. When you miss your right hand, his left hand counter, the left kicks, the timely left kicks to the body, the leg work, the timely head kicks. I mean, just getting off the line, he was so difficult to hit. Just all time great guy, all time great fighter, made a great career, really put on a show. I wish him all the best in what he moves on to, but it'll be hard for us to ever see another Rico Verhoeven. It'd be hard for us to ever see a Giorgio Petrosyan. All time great fighter, very, very special career. I am going to go to K1 Max next. K1 had a great show, one of the truly great shows in kickboxing for the year. When this card came together, I was excited to see how it was going to go. I'm going to focus mostly on the tournament stuff. There was a couple stuff on the undercard. I'll mention some fights outside of the tournament, but man, I really want to focus on what we have here. First things first, we're going to start off with the reserve fight, which, Avila Hamilien Cheetah gets uh, the opportunity with Jonathan Ayel, the Samoan fighter. And the thing I thought like about Jonathan, I told you guys, I met him when I was out there at the K1 Max qualifier. So he had lost, my fighter had lost, but I remember his mentality was, did I compete enough? Did I fight enough to earn another opportunity? Or, I wish I was my better self. But he came out there, they gave him another opportunity. He wins the reserve, and that will go up because he's going to get an opportunity to tournament, which is really cool because if people don't know, Andy Sauer, that's how he did it. Andy Sauer was a reserve. Opportunity came in, he popped in, he was able to win it all. We go to the first match on the card, Stoyan Karpovensky, as he goes against Hercules Wang Kong Wakao, who is the Thai fighter. This was supposed to be Minoru Phillip. He decided not to do the tournament. I don't know if it's injury or if it's just contract dispute or whatever, but decided that he did not want to fight Stoyan Karpovensky, even though he was the first one to win a ball on the card, and he went to the first round, like what you were supposed to do. So when his ball came up for the lottery, he went to the first fight, which is what you're supposed to do. It gives you the longest break, and for whatever reason, nobody matched with him. And then last year's winner, Serjan Karpovensky, goes over there, and that's the matchup for round one. Next thing you know, he's not in a tournament. Hercules is in a tournament. It's the game. Stoyan put it on him. Great forward pressure, complete boxing, finding his kicks in space. Hercules never got going. He stayed on him. There was one round, I think, that they had the grace to call 10-10, but really it was Stoyan Karpovensky with the forward pressure and the heavy offense. Congratulations, great stuff there. He moves on. Next, Alsane Kamara, who really, really, really impressed me in the elimination round. He brought it to Daryl Verdonk, and they put on a great fight. back and forth. It ends up being an extended extra round decision in favor of Verdonk. But Kamara had done a lot of work and he'd had a lot of success. I hope they bring him back to Japan several times. He impressed me. I really liked him. Like even from the elimination round where he came out, his opponent like went after him in like the first 10, 15 seconds, and he was like game on. He responded and he ended up stopping the guy. I really like Kamara. He put in a great performance here against a really tough Dutch fighter. Verdonk moves forward, but Kamara made a good account for himself. Then you got Ouyang Fang against Jonas excuse me, I've been pronouncing this wrong the whole time. Sersicia and Jonas, man, bro, on his way to winning this whole thing, it's important that you fight in a way where they remember you. So Ouyang Fang, of course, is the title holder who just, he beat Wajima. He is the active walking title holder, if you will. So in the way that they do tournaments, but Rico Verhoeven was the champion, Ouyang Fang was in the tournament, but he was also the active walking champion. Jonas was better. For all 3 rounds, he's better. The pressure was there. The length, because Jonas is so tall and so long. He's one of the guys who, when I saw him in the Japan at the elimination, my first thought was, my guy's not a 70 kg fighter. These guys are huge. He came out, landed really good offense, tricky stuff. Sometimes he'll go knee kick. Sometimes he'll play combination of low kicks. Sometimes he'll just shoot single kicks. Weird rhythm to get a hold of. Fang was never able to get a rhythm going. Was never able to get his calf kicks going the way he'd liked. Jonas moves on. Fantastic stuff. And most importantly, the rub. You want to beat somebody who's already champion. Then we have one of the most unfortunate moments of the whole night. Zora Akapakian gets a victory over Ayameric Raji. Just, 2-3 for the kill. Absolutely beautiful. And somehow he got injured. And that's the tournament game. He fought the least amount of everybody in the first round of the tournament. He fought the least amount of time. And somehow, some way, got injured. He wasn't able to go forward. And I know the injury is legit because if you win that fast, and again, it could be broken hand because of the shot that landed, something shoulder wise. But if you win that fast and you don't take the risk of going on to the next round, something happened. So good stuff for him. I wish he got a longer showing. I hope he gets another opportunity. This is his second year. He was in tournament last year, but man, he opened as good as you can open in the tournament. It just after getting the win, he was injured and he wasn't able to go on. So next we go to Ryu Okubo. This is in the super fights. He gets a victory over Wu Yotong. Let me tell you something about Okubo. This kid's tough. This kid is tough. He's very, very skilled with his boxing, and then he's really good with the triangle kick or the toe kick. He was able to land a good one, and it backed Wu off, and he closed the distance. Combination, put that sharp kick in there in the end. TKO or KO first round. Couldn't get up after that second one. He's on a KO streak. Okubo is a guy to watch. I've said this before. K1 right now, of all the big organizations, I feel like they're doing the best job of creating new stars. It's just about building and staying behind them. They got something with Kubo, okay? They've got something with him, 56 kgs. Keep your eye out on this young man. Really fast, good boxing. But man, that teep to the body is just sucking people's lives away. Though that toe kick to the rib, sucking people's lives away. Fantastic stuff. Next, we go to Leon Pettis. Ring rust is real. Ring rust is real. Now, Tomoya Yokoyama is tough. He's got the para lost earlier this year, which no shame there. Para went on to win the tournament for super featherweight. But Nicholas Pettis hadn't been fighting in a while. When he came back, part of me wanted to see him return to his old glory because of how successful he was in the past. But Yokoyama's been more active, won earlier this year, gets a knockdown in this one, and is able to get a victory. This kid's tough. This kid is very talented. 30-27 on 2 cards, 28-29 on the last one. I really like him. I like him. I think he's very, very skilled. He's impressed me. And again, build on him. What kind of star will he be in year, 2 years, 3 years? He's tough. I really like him. Going to go ahead and move on back to the tournament. And we've got Stoyan Karpovensky, who gets... he fought extremely well. He was up, he had done great, and then all of a sudden, Verdonk just bites down and battles back. In the last round, he scores a couple knockdowns, gets the knockout. Krapovinsky showed all the skill in the world. He performed and presented himself like the champion that he was. The returning, he fought like, I am the reigning champion. I'm going to defend this. I'm going to win this thing again. He really impressed me with that. But Darryl Verdonk, once he was down, combination low kick out the window. It's closing the distance and letting big hands go. And sometimes people concede the decision. They concede it like, hey, I'm just going to lose. Sometimes they do that. And I'm glad that that's not what Verdonk's mentality was. I'm down two. This guy's got to go. Went out there, let big hands go. Was able to find a couple of knockdowns and the knockout in the final frame of the third round. Krapovinsky's dope. Hopefully they use him again and more down the road. Darryl Verdonk, super tough, moves on. Then Jonas Sarishka gets the Jonathan Ayo fight. As I mentioned before, the Samoan fighter came in and just was overwhelmed. Jonas too big, too strong. Walked him down, let big offense go, was able to get the stoppage pretty quick in round number three. Jonathan, fought his heart out. And again, he was in a reserve. He didn't know he was going to keep going. Gets this opportunity, but Janos is locked in. Janos just was ready for war. Goes out there, gets a stoppage. Fantastic stuff. Kuzunari Ishii gets a victory over Ito Kurokawa. Awesome fight, back and forth. Ishii went down, Kurokawa went down. These guys were at it with each other, killing each other all night. One of the better fights of the year. Ends up being 28-26. I think was it 20 on all three cards? Yes. So fantastic work, fantastic fight. Ishii brought it. Really fun. Bantamweight champion is Ishii. He did a really, really good job. I'm excited to see more of him down the road. But man, every time I see this kid, I'm impressed. It's fun. Kurokawa had some good moments. The knockdown was special. He just couldn't stay with the consistent offense, the boxing, and the opportune kicks for Ishii. And Ishii gets the victory despite the fact that he went down as well. Congratulations. Next, we move on to Ramanart. It goes against Aaron Machado. Machado gets the victory. Machado did a really good job, of course, of getting his calf kick going. But it's not just that he got the calf kick going, it's the power boxing afterwards. After you get your low kick work going, you find your opportunity. Menard was close enough. He's able to hurt him with some big shots upstairs. He stayed on him, and he's able to get the KO in round one. Raul Menard, young, talented. Of course, he's got, the family name. His dad's one of the all-time great coaches. He'll be back. He's young. He's tough. But man, Aaron Machado, it was his night. He put it together really, really well. Good job with calf kick. Good job with the boxing. He is your K1 Grand Prix heavyweight champion, or just your K1 heavyweight champion, in the way that Fang was the champion, the active walking champion, not your yearly tournament champion. That's what Aaron Machado is. Congratulations. Big time victory there. Then we have Asahisa gets victory over Inagaki. Did not get to see all of this fight, so I'm not going to do the biggest breakdown. Congrats to the Asahisa. I didn't get to see all of it, so I apologize. I don't want to be wrong here. I was trying to remember. There was a gap in the action. I didn't get to see this one, so I apologize for not having a full breakdown on this one. But congrats to the winner. Then I go ahead and finish this card by talk about Jonas as he gets the victory over Verdonk, stops him in round one. He had more energy. Verdonk had just gone through too many wars. And that's the tournament. That is the tournament. As I mentioned before, it's I thought that Verdonk had a good chance to win because I thought that Fang would be in too much of a war with, Jonas, and it'd be too tough by the time he got there that Verdonk would be able to have success with him. That was just my initial thought. Verdonk was the one that went through more of the wars, had the extra round, had the fight where he was down with Krapovinsky and he had to throw offense to get the stoppage. He put in so much effort to get to the final round, whereas Jonas, he had a very clear victory over Jonas, or over Fang, and then he gets two stoppages, back to back to win this thing. He was just fresher when it came down to it, and that's what makes tournaments great. Makes them wonderful, makes them tough. It's. I was talking to Marshall Zelnick from Glory, and one time we were talking about tournaments, and he says, "Yeah, but the problem with tournaments is the best guy doesn't always win." And I go, "Yeah, but the hardest guy wins. The guy who was able to go through the attrition, who was able to still be his best offensively at the end. That's the right guy. That's the guy who should move on. That's the guy who should move forward. And sometimes it's, you know, lucky, and sometimes it's all skill. Like it's there is a luck element to it. There is a skill element to it, and that's why I think makes the tournaments great. Now I've worked in mixed martial arts for a while, and I've worked kickboxing. Sometimes those super fights, even though it is best versus best, sometimes the best person doesn't always win. Scorecard goes the wrong way, stuff like that. So being in a tournament doesn't guarantee the best guy will win, but also being in a single fight against the other guy doesn't mean that the best guy will win. It does mean they'll have the opportunity. And I think this tournament is the opportunity, and Jonas was on form. The Brazilian fought absolutely fantastic. So now it's just about building it. These are new stars. Verdonk, guy who burst on the scene last year in the tournament. Jonas on the scene. Karpovinsky's older because he fought in Glory, but like most of these guys are newer names. So after this victory, I want to maybe even have him do Kamara in a super fight. They've got their next show. I think it's February 7th. Got to keep building. We've got to see more of Jonas. He's got to be household. It's funny because was it Kozo Takada back in the day? That was the big thing. After you won the K1 Max, you would then go on the next K1 kind of super fight event, and you would fight Kozo. So Bacau did it, and I think Sauer did it, and it was like a cool thing because Kozo was a name, and he was a ticket seller, and he was the first Japanese fighter to win a Thai Stadium Championship, if I remember correctly, and but he had a name, and they would bring him in for kickboxing. They'd bring him in for kickboxing, and you would fight him after you won the K1 Max Grand Prix. And I think we need something like that again, where we have a showcase right after you win the tournament. You get another chance to introduce our fight in front of a Japanese audience. So that's what they need for Janas. But his kid's talented, super, super impressive performance, and I'm excited to see how they move him forward. We're going to go to one championship now, and I am going to actually go, let me see, do I want to go bottom up? Yeah, I'll go bottom up. Hiroki Akamoto gets victory over Wee Ru. This is a revenge. Akamoto had more offense. Wee Ru's a little bit older. I mean, he had the K1 tournament run, and he's very slick southpaw. Ran into some losses and some inconsistency. Akamoto's a guy who he's beaten before. Had more offense. Akamoto had more offense from today. Had the right time boxing. It should be noted I was extremely, extremely disappointed that this was in a cage and not a ring. I just think aesthetically the ring looks better. And because there were so many kickboxing fights on the card and, one Muay Thai fight, two Muay Thai fights, I think they should have just left it in a ring. For whatever reason, logistically, they decided to go with MMA. Not the end of the world. I'm just saying, heartbroken that it wasn't kickboxing or it wasn't in a ring. I really liked the ring, and I liked the one championship presentation of the ring. So congratulations, Akamoto gets the victory in a night where we had a couple of I worry sometimes with the matchmaking. Is the purpose to get Thai fighters over Japanese guys? Sometimes it feels that way, but man, Akamoto came out, sent that message. Fight number one. Japanese fighters are going to have us at night. Congrats to him. He gets the victory. So now I'm going to move on to Muay Thai. Sakem gets a victory over Jake Peacock. Now, of course, you guys know I'm a big Jake Peacock fan. He is a guy who is missing a portion of his arm, but he goes out there and he's a violent dude. This was a good, close, back and forth fight. I actually had Jake up a little bit in this fight. The single kick game really dictated the early part of it. After that, there were exchanges with elbows and, just good, clean, high-level kickboxing, Muay Thai from both guys. I thought they did a really good job. I thought the elbows and close were good. And then all of a sudden, Sakem lands a well-timed left hook. Peacock's in trouble, and that was it. Like, just perfect timing of it. And again, it's it was such a competitive back and forth fight. Peacock was in a really good position to possibly go to the cards and get a decision. But man, big time score for Sakim. Shout out to him. He moves forward. He's already asking for some of the elite in the division. Jake Peacock's fine. He's right there skill wise. Just that's the sport. He got caught. He'll bounce back. Really tough guy. I'm excited to see him. Glad that he got this opportunity. He had the Dubai opportunity and the Japan opportunity. I'm just grateful that he's getting these stages. No problem with people going to Thailand. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying I think it's cool if you get some of these international opportunities under one championship. Next, Kana gets a victory over Stamp Fairtex, and the story's clear. Stamp used all of her energy in her walkout. She was not healthy. She was not healthy like she was before. The multiple knee surgeries affected her movement. And if there's one thing Kana can do, if you're in front of her, she'll hit you. So she was able to have success with clean kickboxing throughout. This decision was clear. Stamp never got going in the way. She wasn't who she was. It's almost would have been better if she came back and kind of got like a tune up before this opportunity. But for Kana, it meant everything because Kana hasn't had the best run one championship. She came out, had a loss, maybe even two losses, and then she gets a victory. And then they said they're going to put her in the interim title fight for Japan earlier this year, which didn't make any sense because her record. Same thing with Masaki Nori. Nevertheless, she goes out there. Stamp was right in front of her, and she made her pay. She hit her with a lot of clean, effective offense. She gets this victory. She was so excited. It was cool to see her scream and get all into it. And I was like, wow, it means that much to her to have success at this stage. I have no idea what's next for her because she's already kind of fought the girls above her. So I don't know what their plans are, but they'll figure out something if they're going to go back in Japan in April, like they say. She'll be on the card. So congrats to her. Next, we've got Nabil Anane as he gets a victory over Hiromi Wajima. I mentioned it before, the migration, all the guys in K1 are trying to get to one championship because they're paying a little bit better. Not all of them are having a lot of success, but paycheck is the paycheck, and they're already made stars. Wajima gets a Nabil Anane, very talented. Anane was just too much for him, too skilled, too long. Wajima never really got going. Congrats to Nane. His name has popped up. We're fighting some of the elite in the division, but this was a victory of a guy Thai style, who was able to move over to kickboxing and handle Wajima. So good stuff for him. Yuki Yoza, with probably the most impressive victory on this card, gets a victory over Superlek. I had mentioned before the thing with Superlek. Superlek is super skilled, very talented. Unfortunately, this year he's lost to Nane, if I remember correctly, and now Yoza. So he's having a rough year after last year being the guy who I felt upset the Takuru fight, the Takuru Ratang fight. Because in that one, he beat Takuru and he beat Ratang. So then when they finally fought, it was Takuru versus Ratang for the championship of guys who lost to Superlek. But he's got the off-time body kick. He played a good low kick game in the Takuru fight. Finds his situational boxing when he fought Rotang. Was able to be aggressive and get a knockdown score that got him the win there. Here he comes out and Yukiosa just, no hand wraps right in front of him. Let's see who has the hardest shins. That's kind of how it came to. He's firing good offense. He had a really good time sweep. The chops seemed to affect Superlek. He had off-timing boxing. I think Superlek mentally was trying to deal with, this guy's really trying to go shin for shin with me. And Yuki Yoza just stayed up on the card. Wasn't the most exciting fight overall. But Yuki Yoza really did a great job with his kick offense. The sweep thing was really cool because he had a pose right after he got the sweep. He trapped the league leg. And again, it wasn't a full catch a leg sweep. It was Superlek had picked it up for a check. And then he used his right leg to scoop underneath it and got him off balance. Yuki Yoza wins. Afterwards, he's asking for, whoever it is, I'll take it. He asked for Haggerty again. That was my big hope. I wanted Yuki Yoza versus Haggerty. I was disappointed when it was Superlek because I thought Superlek had a chance to upset that fight from happening. But Yuki Yoza really made his claim as being one of the best pound for pound kickboxers in the world with this victory. We'll see where it takes him from here. But for sure, Haggerty is, a fight to look at. And they said if he's still injured, he'd go with the inane fight. Just the fact that he's down to fight these guys and the fact that he said, I've never turned down a fight in my career, Yuki Yoza is him. Next, we're going to move on to Murat Gregorian. He gets a victory over Rikiya Ampo. And when this match was made, clearly you go, man, how is Ampo going to deal with the forward pressure of Gregorian? Now Ampo's been living. He had the the Petrosyan. He had the Bukal fight that kind of was exhibitionist, made a draw. He had the oh gosh, the he had the boxing fight with Manny Pacquiao. So he's done a lot of things to kind of grow his brand as a popular person. But when this fight was put on, I was like, yo, how's he gonna deal with Gregorian's forward pressure? And the answer is he's not. Gregorian kept forward, was able to land consistent boxing with power shots, the right kick offense, kept Ambo from getting that double kick game going, kept him from getting that single kick and the situational boxing game. Grigori was just too much for the forward pressure. He gets the victory. Another guy who's really made a great resume over the years. Someone I've been watching since he was like 20, 19 years old. It's crazy to see that he's still in the game, still killing it. So congrats to Murat Grigorian. Takura gets a victory over Denis Purik, TKO. I think he was down 4 times. Fight was stopped in the second. When this fight came together, I said, because Purik's a puncher, maybe he's got a chance. But I still had Takura winning. Takura won clear. Like he just, he's older, but Dennis is 40. So Takura was able to land consistent with his boxing, consistent with his calf kicks. This was pretty much one-way traffic, as my friend, the voice Mike Chafello, would say. Great stuff for Takura. Afterwards, he asked about, hey, I've got one more fight left. He says, thank you for the opportunity. Super emotional. And he asked about Rotang again. I'd take it. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully he believes that he can beat them. He believes that he just didn't get going. He got stopped so early in the first fight. We never really got to see what he could do. So Takura gets the victory. Still a superstar. Don't know what this did pay-per-view number-wise, but I do know that it's another almost $1 million for him because of his contract. So hopefully this victory moves on. He gets in one more in April, like they said, and rides off into the sunset, financially secure and living as a coach and living it up. Next, we're going to Nadaka as he gets a victory over Numsurin. I almost drowned myself. I was so mad that I missed breaking down Nadaka going into this fight, but I'll just say it clear. It was made clear in this fight as well. Nadaka is probably, arguably, the best fighter in Japan right now. Yuki Yoza, of course, is right there, and he's building his resume, but Nadaka is already there. Anybody you bring in, he's slaughtering these guys. He's not beating them a little bit, he's beating them clear. This kid's tough. He is really good, and he's on a streak right now where he's putting it all together. I have no idea what the plans are for him moving forward. I just know that this young man is different. He is different. He is a special talent like I've rarely seen. His hand speed, his defense, his sporadic offense. He's special. I am so excited to see what they put together with him moving forward. But this dude is something else. He is really, really, really talented. Nadaka is. You'll be hearing about him for the next 5 to 10 years. This young man is special. I just. Yoshinari Nadaka, write his name down, look up his fights on RWS, follow this kid. He is something else. He is different. Last fight we're going to talk about on the podcast is Superman versus Masaki Nori. Superman just so good at drawing people into his timing of fights. The body kick, the step knees. He did one where he faked a knee and followed up with another knee. He steps off the line just enough. Masaki Nori kept gathering his feet, trying to get position to let offense go. Superbond just move out the way a little bit, one step to the side, kept him off rhythm for 5 rounds. Superbond wins. I mean, Superbond's resume, man. I mean, he's got the how much I lost, but I mean, he's got Nori in his resume. He's got, Murat Gorian. He's got, of course, the Petrosyan stoppage. He's building and making a case for himself, all time too. I don't know if he's ever going to get in that top group, just because it hurts him that there isn't a K1 max like there used to be. And the 70 kg division with Alazov not being around, that also hurts because he has the loss there, and being able to get that back would go a long way. And he's fought and faced most of the names, so that also hurts him. But man, on this night, he put it all together. He fought fantastic. He gets the victory. Overall, one championship. Take away the fact that I wish it was in a ring. It was a fun card. Fantastic card. Fantastic weekend for kickboxing because they were back to back. So between the K1 Max Championship and the One Championship, card. It was a lot of fun. Kickboxing was really doing good. So I want to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. I was really jamming here. I'm at an hour and 4 minutes. So if you decide that you don't want to listen to the whole thing, I understand. Just piece it up. Just piece it up. Listen to some of it. Listen to the rest of it later. But I'm grateful for you guys for listening. God bless. Be safe. Thank you for following Kickboxing, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Peace.